Hey there, friends. Let's start. Welcome to MRI Forum, a survey of food assistance program in Macau. In Macau, we have three speakers. We have Karen Aranyo Tagulao, we have Alexander Lebel, and Crystal Low. Just a short introduction. Karen is an assistant professor, chair of the USJ Green Committee, and program coordinator for the Master of Environmental Science and Management at the University of St. Joseph in Macau. Karen is deeply involved in sustainability initiatives and environmental education in Macau and the region, particularly focused on coastal ecosystems, biodiversity conservation, and nature-based solutions. She has been a principal investigator of several significant research projects, including funded studies on coastal water pollution remediation and coastal ecosystem restoration. Her work has earned international recognition, notably with a highly commended award in the Nature Positive category at the International Green Gown Award 2024 for her mangrove conservation initiatives. In addition to research and teaching, she also contributes to community oriented projects, including initiatives addressing hunger issues as part of her advocacy for broader sustainability and community well being. Our second speaker is Alexander Lebel, who holds a college degree in liberal arts from Canada, Montreal, Canada, a bachelor degree in anthropology, also from Canada, a master degree in environment sciences and management from USJ here in Macau, and a doctorate in education also in USJ. He is a professionally qualified technician in the field of water treatment technologies with over 15 years of experience in the environmental sector, including public, private, and academic sectors. Alexander is currently an assistant research professor at the Institute of Science and Environment at the University of St. Joseph, Macau. The third speaker is Crystal Low, holds a degree in journalism from Taiwan and has over 10 years of professional experience in the media industry. She currently serves as a television program coordinator at TDM Teledifuso de Macau, specializing in research and script writing. She is pleased to contribute her expertise to the project. So the program of the talk today, 40 minutes for the three of them. Then after that, 10 minutes for feedback from Lebanon through Francis Ziad and Rita Daniel, then which will be followed by 10 minutes from Dennis McCann from Dumaguete. And after that, we have the Q&A for those present here and also those online. Then after that, we round up for everything, what we can learn from these talks today and what we can learn from our discussion. So without much further ado, I'll give the floor to Karen, Alexander, and Crystal. Welcome.
Good evening, and thank you, Father Felipe, for your kind introductions. I will first introduce the project. Um, just as Father Felipe mentioned, my background is not really the social science, so I'm a scientist, but I'm very also much aware and concerned about social issues that we are facing right now. That's why I'm very happy to have taken part in this research. And I would like to thank especially Father Rotlin and our other partners for inviting us to be part of this very important research. The title of our work is A Survey for Food Assistance Programs in Macau. And I would like to first give you a brief background about this project. So it's actually a part of a bigger collaborative research project addressing community responses to famine and emergency food assistance, a comparative study of Lebanon, Macau, and the Philippines. And I would like to acknowledge the presence of our colleagues from Lebanon and the Philippines in this talk. And this project was actually initiated by Father Rotlin together with Professor Huling and Professor Dennis McCain, who is based in the Philippines. So the general objectives of this bigger research project is first to explore the socio-economic, cultural, and political factors that influence famine and food security in each of the communities, our target communities, so Philippines, Macau, and Lebanon, and then to examine the existing community-driven initiatives and programs that address this issue, and also to identify the strengths, the challenges, and best practices, and hopefully to share these best practices with other countries or other communities facing similar issues, and then to assess the possibility of exporting community-based solutions to hunger, like food banks and food pantries to different cultural and political settings. And lastly, to generate recommendations eventually for policymakers, community organizations, and international stakeholders to improve emergency food assistance programs. So we are going to share what we have done in Macau. So Macau was a case study. And I would like first to introduce you, okay, to frame the research context and general welfare policies by briefly tackling entitlement relations. So this concept is defined as ownership or entitlement in market economies. This implies legal rights to access goods and services governed by entitlement relations. So this can be goods, for example, food, which is the main topic of this presentation. This idea highlights that access to food depends not only on its availability, but also on people's ability to claim it through work, trade, or social support, just like the theory of Amartya Sen's, which will be further expounded later on in the discussion by my colleague, Professor Alexander Lebel. These exchange mechanisms allows individual to convert what they own, for example, such as labor or commodities, in other desired goods via market exchanges. In Macau, this framework helps us to see the importance of food assistance programs. As you can see here, Macau has one of the highest GDPs in the world. However, there are different levels of prosperity, income inequality, and rising living costs. This means that not everyone has the same entitlement. So in Macau, because the industry is mainly based on the gaming industry, this caused a decline in the manufacturing industry. So one of the challenges we face is that small workforce are, now pressured to reskill. And there is also the issue of rising income inequality and especially housing inflation. Everyone in Macau actually is aware of this. Because of this, there are some policy responses put forward by the government. So we have social security, labor laws, for example, and many welfare programs, okay, were introduced by the government together or in partnership with many organizations in Macau. And this is to safeguard the exchange entitlements. These are just some examples of the Macau's welfare programs. So most of these are focused on healthcare support, direct financial assistance. They have this program called the Wealth Partaking Schemes, wherein every resident of Macau actually receive cash. And this cash can be used for many things, including food if needed. Housing assistance is also given, subsidies for other basic needs, and other programs for employment and labor protection. In terms of food security, there is no direct program, but these subsidies mentioned above can actually be used, for example, for food security issues or reduce food insecurity in affected communities or low-income individuals. Government also funds associations like Caritas Macau, which is one of the case studies that will be presented tonight, also receive a short-term assistance program from the government. Another concept is social patronage, which is very important because in Macau, this has a very strong and cultural roots. This social patronage describes the exchange of resources or support from individuals or those who are capable to donate or institutions which are the patrons to a subordinate or a client, the ones or the recipients of this or the beneficiaries in exchange for loyalty, support, or services. So in Macau, there's this special patron-client network shaped by a very long history, culture, and politics. And this involves many associations and the important role of the government. In Macau, there are actually thousands of registered associations. And in the pre-1980s, most of them provide welfare services independently. But after the 1980s, the government worked more with these registered associations and became the government's executive arms, implementing or working closely with the community for social and cultural programs. So there are many subsidies and support that these associations receive, and this usually aligns with the government policies. And this social patronage are, important for public welfare, financial aid, jobs, education, healthcare, addressing many of the societal issues that we face, okay, in the community. And they act as intermediaries between government and the residents. And they encourage also public participation and reflect the community needs. So how did we address these issues, or how did we evaluate these different cases in Macau? So we employed the qualitative research. Crystal here, our colleague, actually did all the hard work on the ground, and she did the face-to-face interviews and non-participant observations with five of the different NGOs, okay, that we work with. And the participants range from operators of these NGOs, staff, volunteers, donors, and other beneficiaries, of course, and the beneficiaries. And we approach this through the framework, okay, of entitlement approach and social innovation approach. And we identified these various variables, so the social impact, economic sustainability and program viability, cross-sector collaboration, type of innovation, and whether this can be scalable and can be replicable. So we work with these five organizations. Two are bigger organizations, international organizations, and three smaller ones that provided or still provides food assistance services in Macau. So Oxfam, Caritas, Macau Eco-Conscious Community Fridge, Mother's Meal, and Upo. And you can see here that, we were able to interview several stakeholders within each association or organization. I will share with you one of this because I actually personally participated in one of the activities that they did. So Oxfam Macau, I think you are aware that this is an international organization that has a core mission to fight poverty and inequality in the world. It was established in Macau 25 years ago. One of the projects that they have many initiatives, but one initiative that is related to food insecurity is the Market Treasure Hunt Initiative, which was actually initiated in 2016, which is an extension of the World Poverty Day program. And I think they saw that they saw the need of the community and the response of the stakeholders, so they continue this until today, especially during COVID times. So what they do is, so I actually participated in one of these events last year with Crystal, and they collaborate with Bosco Youth Service Network and Salvation Army Joy Family. What they do is they collect donations from the market or from stores nearby an area, and usually they do this in the afternoon, late afternoon, or early evening, and they collect whatever leftover commodities, for example, vegetables, fruits, etc., that the sellers or the stalls can donate. And then you can see here in the photo. So this is based on volunteer work. So the Oxfam group has staff, but also volunteers who come there during these events, and then they help collect the products like this, and then distribute this, as you can see here, the different vegetables and fruits. And then based on an enlistment basis, which is anonymous, okay, people are made aware that there is such program, and those who feel the need or interested can come here and then collect the um, vegetables and fruits or other items that they can use for their consumption. There are several challenges for this because the donations depend on market sales and weather conditions, and then these items must actually, based on my observations also, must actually be checked that they are still good for consumption, because these are food that are put on the table and eaten by families. Yeah, however, the beneficiaries, okay, almost. The beneficiaries are usually retired people who receive government pensions and allowances. And while the activity is promoted online, usually they also have issues because these are usually elderly people and they don't have access, for example, or they're not used to using online platforms to register. But other than that, they are actually generally happy. They express satisfaction in this program because they save money and meet people, and the donors were also happy to donate the food that was not, wasted instead of going into uh, trash. Okay, thank you. So my colleague Krista will share with you more of the case studies that we have done. Thank you, Krista.
Hello, everyone. My name is Crystal. I'm going to share with you today a case study from Macau. But my mainly case, the sharing is the characters. The mainland Fong Food Bank, although Macau is often known as a gambling capital of the world, with one of highest GDPs per capita, in reality, many grassroots residents and migrant workers still struggle with daily challenges. During the pandemic, food insecurity became a pressing issue. About the mainland Fong Food Bank, their target groups is the low-income families, elderly, living alone, and single-parent household, and some more workers. But the mainly is service focused on have the Macau ID people. And you can see the PowerPoint is the photo is about the food what they provide, and there is the service is provided including food packages, which is have rice, oil, canned food, noodles, and also a meal voucher program. But the program also have some need to be addressed by the family's member. If your family's member have a baby, it also provide milk powder, and the milk voucher is provide is for the candidates for buy chilled food, egg, meat, or bones. But how it comes for their resource and the partnership, the mainly is from the government, and some of that is from public donation, and have some supermarkets cooperation with and restaurants. And the program also have a volunteer to involve to distribute the food. But we have the challenge is however, there also have the challenges because the program is not the food is unstable food supply, and the donation is mainly come from government. For my research, the funding mainly come from the government. According to them, everyone has government subsidies. It's mainly for the economic aid or support for the research, and two-thirds of the source of each person subsidies fund come from the government. And because the pandemic and the food and the reason is demand very more. And how about the impact? The impact is, even though this program assists hundreds of families every month, And it is not address immediately food needs, but also strengthen community support and raises awareness of the food insecurity. And this is my summary. My summary is when I visit different organizations such as Osfam and other local charities, I notice one thing in common. They don't just provide material aid, but also focus on companionship, education, and their mentally is also not physically and mentally also helping. Because some candidates, maybe if I have the problem, they don't know how to find the association, and their first reaction is more nervous. I don't know how to solve the problem. So when my experience is when I visit those different organizations, they solve their mentally problem and also solve their food problem. The next part is Alex.
Good evening. I want to thank Father Rotlin and the Macau Ricci Institute for supporting this research. I learned a lot doing this, especially the framework that was presented to us for the analyzing our data. It was based, as Professor Karen mentioned, on Amartya Sen's entitlement approach. And it's important because then we can use this framework to compare between different system or programs. And what we have here in Macau, for example, is the market economy. For those who may not know, because of course we have the gaming industry, but it was possible because really Macau was a free tax-free port where all commodities could transit without any taxation, and also for businesses who pay very low tax on their revenues. And this here, I would say, well, that creates a very unique environment where the government has minimal intervention, and then food, as other commodities, is subject to the market economy, like free trade. So in that case, that will create, I would say, like inequalities, because some in that framework of entitlement, some people have easier access to food, and or the price can be very volatile. So here I have a brief description of the entitlement approach, where we say that okay, I'm sorry, because I skipped the first slide here with the essay Poverty and Famines from Amartya Sen, who's an economist, Nobel Prize winner. So we have different ways to access food. So this is through our entitlements. So it can be production-based, which does not really apply here to Macau because we are not producers. So it will be trade-based. So we will trade what we own. In this case would be our labor. So we would just work and receive money, and then trade that money for food. Or also it could be inheritance. In that case, it can be a transfer of entitlements. Basically, it can be like a donation or a charity, or the government transferring money to people in need. So what I mentioned here is that this does not, famine or food insecurity does not necessarily come from a lack of food, but the way that entitlements are exchanged. So in a free market economy, how do we expect food to be traded? So we would expect that there would be competition, would contribute to drive the price at at the minimum cost, so it would be more accessible. What would be different would be the quality. So there would be access to what I would say high-end products and also access to low-end products. So what we saw is that what we would consider a low-end would be what is collected, for example, by Caritas, which is accessible. It's just that if we consider the entitlements, then people would have only lesser quality. And to give an example, like with other essentials, like Professor Karen, she mentioned that government here subsidize a lot of different sectors like that are essential. So I would say here it's like if we had like extreme case of government intervention or extreme case of free market, what should we see? So if it for food, the idea with government intervention is a bit to fix, to patch the shortcomings of the free market. If the government would be heavily involved, it's very difficult sometimes to predict what are the commodities in demand, for example, during Christmas time or Chinese New Year. Some products are more in demand than other time of the year. So we would end up with surplus or shortage. So in that sense, a free market economy is able to regulate the supplies according to the demand. So the government instead would invest in healthcare, education, employment, and housing. And the rationale is that if people have those essentials, they should be able to have money left in their pocket to afford the food. Of course, here, what I'm presenting in this table is just very qualitative. We did not do like a actual quantitative survey to see whether it's true or not. It's just the idea that the government by intervention should protect the marginalized groups. But in the case of the food, if there would be like too much freedom to the free market, then there could be difficulties, and when we have economic challenges like when during COVID, or if the I would say the economy in general is slower, then people would have less access to food. So here, which in this case, which are the vulnerable groups? We would have the elderly, migrant workers, isolated individuals, low-income families. Okay, and what we would say is that their entitlements are non-viable. So it is they are not able to have access to acceptable standard in terms of food with the entitlement that they have. So what we have seen here in Macau is that it's also a free because we have in terms of support to those people. There are numerous associations and even associations of associations or cooperations between associations. And because they do not necessarily operate directly on food assistance, but they are in the known of who would be in need whenever like there's a crisis or difficulties. So organizations like Caritas or Oxfam, but we have met with other associations, very small associations. Sometimes it's 2-3 people involved only. Can be even a personal initiative within a larger association. So one, for example, was the Mother's Meal or Community Fridge. They were helping during COVID to provide some meals for migrant workers or elderly. We have also small shops like who work in with food products that will voluntarily with formal like I would say like a program, but they will contribute. They know that they have surplus, or they simply want to give back to the community. And there were many of those that were not necessarily big enough to for a case study, or in some case they just did not want to be interviewed. But this is this idea that associations in Macau, they create in a way, or they strengthen the social fabrics And this networking can really enhance the transfer of entitlements. And the idea here is that if we have this strong network, okay, of between individuals, whether it's a hobby, it doesn't have to be necessarily related to food or other essentials. Sometimes it's just interest. People maybe they are just involved in something, or maybe the neighborhood, they participate in some activities. Then when we know that there are people that are more vulnerable because of the market fluctuation, then those associations are able to intervene. And not only this is the communication when we have those programs, whether it's the government or other organizations, they have support that is, I mean, the program, they offer it to the people, but sometimes the people just don't know, and that's why they are those are especially vulnerable elderly who do not have access to the mobile phone, or they do not know how to use it. So even if the information is out there, they may not receive it. Migrant workers, sometimes it's the language, isolated individuals, because there's no way for the information to reach them. So this is where we can use this association network to reach those. Also, well, there's this idea like the accountability, the voice, to give a voice to the vulnerable people. So just being part of an association, whatever association, okay, it's just because, well, it's people who know people, and that can help them just if they are in need or they face certain challenges, then they are able to communicate with someone who's able to speak up for them. And also, well, there's a fourth point. There's just so everything is based on, well, if we have in Macau, if we have incomes, so we can afford the food. So those network is not directly food, but it can give support just to find a job, or even like to keep a job. Obviously, to give the support they need, like well, we were mentioning Caritas, who's also working, helping people who have mental or psychological difficulties. So, short conclusion here, whether it's like something that can be replicated, well, obviously it's not exportable as a model that immediately can be replicated. It's more just an idea that in a free market economy, there are ways to create an environment that in times of crisis, those associations are able to respond maybe more rapidly than a centralized government. And also because they are closer to people, they know exactly what is needed. And this create also a social solidarity that just people are always interacting, they can share their struggle. And one thing is important also, if like people sometimes they are not even trying to get help because of the stigma that can be involved with that. And well, this can eventually, this decentralized system can also influence the policies progressively, little by little. So the limitation with this is it relies on communication, the fact that those associations are in contact with each other, or the people are able to contact the associations, which needs in our days like access to digital technologies. And certain like model, for example, the Oxfam that relies on the foods that are like basically the leftovers from the small shop. It's not necessarily something that itself is sustainable, because obviously those shops, they do not want to have excess leftovers. So we cannot say, oh, well, we were going to create a big network, try to collect the food, because eventually, well, that's not the goal to have those wastes. So, but it's this charity based should, in that sense, should not be the main like I would say the main like foundation. It's a bit what, and now this is very theoretical, but is what the government in Macau is trying to do, is that if we provide other essential services like healthcare, education, and labor laws, then we hope that people will have the means to afford the food. And well, thank you. That ends our presentation.
Thank you very much for all the points Karen, Crystal, and Alexander made today. How we wish we can connect the points. So many dots there. So from Macau, let's move on to Lebanon. Let's hear from the feedback from Lebanon. Francis, Ziad, and Rita, Daniel.
Hello again, I'm Rita from Lebanon team, and it's a privilege to be a part of this forum where we come together not only to discuss hunger, but also to build solutions that restore dignity and hope to vulnerable communities. My colleague, Dr. Ziad Francis, professor at the University of St. Joseph, contributed with AI-driven analysis and up-to-date methods. I would like to send a big thank you to my colleague, Dr. Ziad. He always saves me. He probably had a secret hidden somewhere because he always make everything right. Thank you, Dr. Ziad. Our project is a collaborative research project with Professor Rothlen, Professor Ling, and Professor Dennis. Thank you. Also, we would like to wish Professor Father Stefan a speedy recovery. Let us never forget that food assistance is not only about feeding people, it is about preserving their dignity and empowering their choices. And United Nations right to food is the right to an adequate standard of living, including adequate food, as well as the fundamental right to be free from hunger. Our partners that we worked with, our primary one is the Lebanese Food Bank. In addition to the Lebanese Food Bank, we have dealt with many NGOs that deal with feeding people and fighting against hungers, like Beit al-Kal, Barad al-Hay, and Ma'ak associations, and many others. The methodology that we used, we prepared a questionnaires for beneficiaries, for volunteers, for food banks, employees, for donors.
Rita,
We prepared questionnaires. We contacted various Lebanese food banks to obtain their collaboration and support. And after approval, we visited them to distribute and conduct the questionnaires. Our target, employees, beneficiaries, donors, and volunteers. We collected data. We analyzed the results, sure, with the help of Dr. Ziad and up-to-date programs. Now, regarding the crisis that Lebanon is facing, we have an economic collapse and currency devaluation. We have a rising poverty levels, 40% and plus of households food insecure, political paralysis and instability, impact of regional war. So Lebanon is facing one of the deepest crises in its modern history. We had to do a SWOT analysis just to analyze the current situation, and so we can help. We help our project and our analysis to see more clearly about what will be our threats and opportunities. The SWOT analysis is in our final report that we have already submitted. Okay, food banks are more than meals in Lebanon. They protect dignity and human rights. We are serving all communities without discrimination. We are shielding families from hunger. And our mission is not charity, but a defense of basic human rights. Now, political and social dimension. Like already Dennis asked a question regarding Gaza and Lebanon, we can see that hunger in Lebanon reflects governance failure. Food banks are a safety net, not a replacement for the state. Real change requires political accountability. International partners play a key role in supporting stability. NGOs, volunteers, and communities are showing resilience. Collaboration is across religions and communities, no discrimination. Food banks are symbol of unity and compassion, and solidarity remains stronger than division. We also contributed to some NGOs, fairs, and donations. We were with them, we helped them. Now, our call for international collaboration, our local knowledge, and our expertise will bring us stronger. Sustainable and inclusive hunger relief strategy, we are working on it. We focus on dignity, empowerment, and together we can make food banks about more than survival. Stand with Lebanon. Together we can fight hunger and bring hope. Support the Lebanese Food Bank to feed families, heal communities, and secure a brighter future. Because 1 in 3 Lebanese struggles with food insecurity. Lebanese Food Bank provides millions of meals yearly but needs more support. International solidarity means food dignity and hope. Now in numbers, Lebanese community needs food assistance. 800 families needs aid. We saw meal famine, war and economic crisis. 65% of families are in poverty and need food assistance. Excuse me, sometimes the stress of presenting make words run away from our head. So food banks are sharing food to in need families. Now about war. In southern areas, we had a conflict impact. Southern Lebanon was heavily bombarded, especially areas near the border, like Tir, Bint Jbel, Marjayoun, and Nabatiye. For displacement, over 1 million people were internally displaced. They moved into Lebanese regions. Many fled to areas in Taus, Beirut, or other regions. Infrastructure damage, especially in agricultural land destroyed. That will bring us to ask for an urgent aid, especially for farmers and food. In southern areas in Lebanon, many families lost access to local food markets. Reliance on humanitarian aid increased dramatically. Regarding cooking and water, displaced families often lacked stove, clean water, or fuel, which affected food preparation. Nutritional needs, vulnerable populations, especially children, elderly, pregnant women, required protein-rich and calorie-sufficient foods. Psychological support, stress from displacement and hunger affected appetite and health, increasing risk of malnutrition. Long-term effects of the war in southern area in Lebanon, we have dependence on food aid, UN agencies and NGOs, loss of livelihood, farmers lost land or equipment, community strain, displacement caused overcrowding in temporary shelters, creating competition for limited food, and economic vulnerability, inflation, and destroyed markets made purchasing food for more expensive for survivors, made it more expensive for survivors. The most vulnerable groups are displaced families living in shelters, female-headed households, households struggling with income loss, children and elderly at higher risk of malnutrition, small-scale farmers who lost lands. Data and evidence regarding these regions in Lebanon, reports from UN and local NGOs afterward noted around 700,000 people relied on food assistance during peak displacement. Food insecurity was concentrated in southern district bordering Israel. NGOs coordinated emergency relief with the Lebanese Red Cross and municipalities. Its numbers, okay. Lebanon after war lost 14 billion in economic losses, and key sectors such agriculture is our main purpose. We have escalating prices in food and insecurity. We have rising poverty, and as a closing, I'm looking forward to learning from your experiences, please. We had a success story that we talked about in our final report about Joseph, who finally got help from food bank to his mother who is sick and went back to college. Okay? Please keep Lebanon in your prayers. This is Lebanon team, Riyadh, Rita and Ziad. Thank you so much. And I will give please 1 minute to Dr. Ziad, just to give us a quick explanation about the AI programs that we used. Thank you all.
Thank you too.
Dr.
Go ahead,
Ziad.
Dr. Ziad.
Hi, I'm going to be very brief. I think I know we've exceeded our allowed time. Can you see my page? I don't know if it's visible still, but it's mainly actually just to make things clear. Like I know that everyone now, this is the trend. Everyone wants to use AI. They want to put AI everywhere. That's not the purpose in our study. So the purpose was to, because we didn't know the scale of the project at the beginning, so we wanted something that can scale with the numbers. And since we knew that we're going to gather some data from food banks, we needed some kind of automated proof of concept method that in case we scale to a larger number, we don't have to do the analysis manually. So this is where AI was used. I've used something called sentiment analysis of the answers, the questionnaires that Rita, my colleague, was describing from food bank employees, food bank beneficiaries, donors, and volunteers. So to see what is there, or to measure in numbers, what's the polarity of the sentiment? Is it positive, negative, or neutral? And so that's a proof of concept. I don't want to go into a lot of details. We can see that most of, on the graphs, on the bar charts, I've used two different models. This is why we have two plots. But we can see the differences between the positive polarity, neutral, and the negative. So most of them, all of them, beneficiaries, donors, employees, and volunteers, they had mostly positive impression. Now, this might be due to the interview, but we can also measure the difference, the relative difference in between the categories. So, for example, I would say if we take a look at the volunteers, so that's the bars in red, they always had the highest positive polarity among, so you have volunteers and donors. If you combine these, they are like the highest positive polarity. If you take a look at the right, the Vader, the right side model, for example, it might be linked to people who are giving for free. They are more positive by nature somehow. It's more going into the psychology and analyzing the words. Now, I need to highlight, this is just a proof of concept. I didn't run it on all the data. The data needs to be cleaned first. I just wanted to see what can AI provide in this context at this point. And definitely we're not trying to automate the whole process. We need to keep this human contact in this system present. We don't need to replace human contacts by numerical methods somehow. So the advantages is that it will allow us to scale our research or our analysis methods. So we can analyze manually 20 or 40 or 50 questionnaires, but as soon as you go up in hundreds, you need something automated. The challenges are that more data is needed to have an accurate result. So data acquisition is actually kind of slow. And I think we did suffer from getting people to fill the questionnaires and to get an interview. It's very hard when someone is working and you interfere somehow in their day and you say, I have to take half an hour of your time just for a questionnaire. Can you please give me a rendezvous or a meeting schedule? It's usually, we meet some kind of resistance. My colleague Rita can confirm on this. We also had some NGOs that totally refused to see us, and some of them they gave us a meeting point, a meeting schedule, a meeting time, and they didn't attend. They were not able to make it. So this might be something to keep on his side at the moment. And I remember Dennis advised us to keep things simple at first. So we're going slow with AI. I just wanted to show you this, that it's feasible, it's doable, we can do it. There are different ways to do it. And actually, the more we wait, the more the methods and the models of AI are getting better at this. So a year ago, when we have done this work, I think if I would repeat it now with the new models, I would get even more accurate results. So that's the advantage also of getting a bit of waiting time at the beginning at this era. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Ziad. Now, let's
Thank you.
ask Dennis McCann, feedback from Dumaguete. Welcome.
Okay. We have 5 case studies done by the members of my team. Both are graduate students from Silliman University here in Dumaguete, Glynis Casino and Rochelle Remolio. And it is their work. I supervised it, helped structure it, and will help get it published in the Macau Ricci Institute Journal. Now, I do not have a PowerPoint, but I would suggest that if you'd like to see, these case studies are all done and have been done for quite some time. So if anybody from our audience would like to see the details from our case studies, I would recommend that you drop a note to either me or especially to Father Rothlin, who's always in touch with me, and we'll make sure you get the full package of the case studies. Now, out of our reports, first of all, we're dealing at a very local level, and we're dealing in a local level that has some things in common with both Macau and Lebanon, but to a great extent does not. First of all, we are in the province of Negros Oriental, the eastern side of Negros Island, which up until most recently was dominated by subsistence farming. That plus the 4 universities in Dumaguete, one of which is Silliman University, which is normally considered one of the probably the strongest academic institution outside the Metro Manila area. And so you see, given that background in subsistence farming, as opposed to the agribusiness focused on sugar or rice in Negros Occidental and other areas of the Philippines, a lot of the concern for food security is episodic. It is not something that is ongoing, at least until recently. In other words, what do I mean by episodic? I mean a response to disasters like typhoons and earthquakes, where then aspects of the community naturally, given their own value systems, respond and begin to put together a program ad hoc to meet the needs of people who are food insecure, but who also are lacking in a lot of other things as well. At least one of our programs out of Silliman University was like this, where we were trying to deal with the impact of a typhoon that swept across Negros Island, from east to west. Now, the other kind of program that we have, or we saw in our case studies, is structural, and it tends to be focused on the needs of small children, that is, children in elementary school. The best of these, or the most promising of these, is one involving public and private partnership. There is a program that the government of the Philippines has promoted called the 4Ps, which is a way of trying to keep the kids in school by giving cash subsidies to the families, but then that is supplemented by voluntary organizations which are doing their best to feed the children who are now coming to school because of the 4Ps. So this is working very successfully, to meet the food insecurity needs of those families, but at the same time is helping to support a developmental imperative for the Philippines, which is to make sure the kids get to school and stay with their academic program. A third kind of a program that we had, which I found most interesting, was again something that came out of the COVID crisis, which hit the Philippines like it did everywhere else, where everything was shut down. This was also true of Silliman University, as well as most major institutions in Dumaguete. But there were certain aspects of the population that were hit harder than others by the COVID thing. One of which were the pedicab drivers. That is, the guys who have the motorcycle tricycles and who are the kind of ordinary form of transportation for most people getting around the city. Okay. Now, what happened was that all of that economic activity was shut down with COVID. And so you've got whole populations of drivers, that is, people who are part of the group that provides these services, that is the pedicabs, who no longer had the funds to pay their ordinary expenses from day to day, including the need for food. Okay, so what did they do? They organized their own food co-op, based on membership in the union, informally considered, the union among pedicab drivers. And this was successful in helping them to organize, get the food distributed to the people who were in need of it within their community. And the interesting thing about that study is that, okay, what happens once COVID is over? What happens once the crisis passed? Was there a way to repurpose the organization, the food bank that had been established, beyond the COVID crisis? And as it turned out, the people who were doing this actually did find a new purpose for this, which was to meet the needs of the elderly, that is, the retired members of the pedicab community. So what I want to say about all of this is that in Dumaguete, most people do not experience food insecurity. Food seems to be relatively available, even though the income level, this is a very poor part of the country, one of the least developed economically. And yet, the food is available, but the distribution problem and how it can be done through the interaction of the government to some extent, mostly with voluntary efforts responding to immediate needs as they arise. That seems to be what we learned in Dumaguete. Thank you very much.